Ethan debated with Hasan on China and Taiwan. Really?
How do we feel about Taiwan, Hassan? China or not
Taiwan?
China? Or is it China or not China?
That's the American policy. Whatever the American policy is, whatever the American perspective is.
What's your opinion? You really won't say?
No, I'm saying it. It's like one country, two systems. You know?
No, it's not.
That's not the American perspective. The American perspective is that it's two countries, two systems.
Two different countries.
Really?
Taiwan and China.
Is that according to American foreign policy?
No, wait, dude. Does he actually seriously believe that there's an ongoing civil war between the two countries that haven't fought for 70 years and have completely different systems with completely different elected? Are we actually doing this?
As far as Chinese-Taiwanese relations goes, like the original inception of the country is
Taiwan
is a fascist dictatorship that America recognized as the real China until Richard Nixon.
This has nothing to do with their de facto independence. This is just like, let me just inject my lefty creds here. Yeah, there are lots of countries that are fascist dictatorships that America did bad things. What does that have to do with the issue?
They want autonomy while simultaneously being under the Chinese banner, according to
they want
international.
No, they're not. The Taiwanese people they are not under the Chinese banner. The majority of people want the status quo, leaning towards independence, and the status quo is not them being under the Chinese banner.
So you understand how Taiwan was developed as a nation state, right? Like, so Mao purged and defeated the counter-revolutionary forces. They like
that technical note. They weren't the counter-revolutionary forces. They were just the current government of... My understanding is that when you talk about counter-revolutionary forces, you're usually talking about forces that foment within the revolution or after the revolution, not just the other army, right? Like, you wouldn't... Like, I don't... People usually... Like, the white army wasn't the counter-revolutionary force. It was just, like, the czars. Okay. Yeah.
Historically speaking, Taiwan and China being the same country, it has been around for much longer than, like, as Elon Musk said, Hawaii being an American state.
What does this mean? What does this mean? Taiwan operates as its own country. What does this mean?
Much longer.
Notice how this is really similar to the stuff that people will say, where they'll go like, "Oh, I'm not defending Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but you know, Ukraine actually used to be Russian territory." Like, what does that have to do? What does any of this have to do with the material fact that it operates as a separate country?
Taiwan is already independent. That's what I'm saying. People don't want a formal declaration just because they don't want a fucking war. But they're not wanting to be Hong Kong and be consumed by the Chinese party.
They don't want to be Hong Kong? What happened in Hong Kong?
Am I saying the right place?
No, you
They
are
were independent and then they got fucking eaten.
They were
up.
not independent.
Oh, they had some rights. They were less independent.
Is he seriously going to defend the purge of Oh man.
Taiwan, and then they got eaten up.
Hong Kong was bought by
Are you saying the people of Hong Kong did not want to be?
There were certainly people that did not want to be a part of China. Absolutely.
They settled on one China, two systems, and then there were massive protests because China immediately violated the agreements they had and started... Not only did they start violating agreements they had with treatment towards Hong Kong, they also started like arresting people who were part of Hong Kong's separate political system. And protesters started disappearing, and that's what led to the Hong Kong protests. Why would Taiwan ever want to be controlled by China when they've shown what they were willing to do with Hong Kong?
Because like at a time in like the 90s, Hong Kong was seen as like this prosperous middle ground, but since the 2000s, like because of an insane amount of development and insane trade relations with the rest of the planet, there are tier 1 cities that are even larger and have more economic activity than Hong Kong in and of itself. And there was always a timeline where Hong Kong was going to be given back to China. They just accelerated it by like 2 decades.
By breaking the agreements. What? You can tell he's nervous. He knows he's bullshit. He knows he's treading on really thin ice right here. Yeah, the way he's talking, 100%. Yeah.
Because that was a lease on Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. So the people of Hong Kong, there were certainly a lot of people in Hong Kong that did not want to be a part of the Chinese state. But overall, if you look at the situation in Hong Kong right now, it's Like they claimed that it was going to be devastating, and that has not happened.
They lost. It's like he admitted that they lost their civil liberties, but he isn't admitting that he admitted it. I don't understand. Been watching Hasan streams for a few years. Never once has he mentioned what Chinese police do to LGBT organizations or the mass arrests of Marxist student protesters. Not once ever. No, because he's so desperate to be like a broadly beloved like celebrity of the left that he doesn't want to alienate any of the fucking Tankies in his audience, which makes the problem worse. We wouldn't have this huge weird issue of like a fuck ton of Western lefties who seem to genuinely believe that these are proletarian states if it wasn't for people tiptoeing all over it. This is like a different version of the exact same problem that happened with woke scolds and breadtube, where like breadtuber after breadtuber after breadtuber ended up like leaving or having horrible fucking experiences because they never did anything to combat or deal with the shared community of insane hyper online woke scolds that ended up like making Lindsay Ellis leave the platform or getting fucking ContraPoints back on opiate addiction or whatever. They could have at any point dealt with it, but rather than deal with it, they just desperately tried to cater to them and be in their good graces, not knowing that you're essentially feeding the piranhas that travel the river you'll have to walk across one day too. It's insane.
This is interesting that you're very soft-footed around the issue of China. You love China.
I think China.
If you love China so much, why don't you marry it?
Once again, I don't live there. I choose to live here.
Like what I have seen Hasan talk about issues off the cuff. Why is Hasan speaking as though like Xi Jinping is personally behind him with a gun to his head? Like, what is this? Like, I'm genuinely asking why. Like, I've seen Hasan talk more off the cuff about a bunch of issues. Like, why is he so careful? Is he being like paid or something? Does he think that he's going to break into like the Chinese market at some point? Well, I don't understand.
I mean, certainly there was political dissidents are definitely
not the
political
best.
Dissidents are definitely like
taken out back.
They're not killed or anything, but
oh my god, dude. Well, they're not killed. I mean, well, they're okay, sure, right. Well, okay. So many societies have had secret police.
The overwhelming majority of people living in Taiwan are still Han Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, despite the fact that it's a separate country,
it's
still like the same people.
Dude, why? What gun is held to his head? What, dude? They're the same people because their blood is this. What do you mean? Like, South and North Korean people are the same in like a genetic sense, I guess, but culturally, South and North Korean people are so different that South Koreans probably have significantly more in common with Americans than they do North Koreans. I'm sorry. Well, listen, okay, man. Taiwan, listen, it was Chinese soil 100 years ago, and it's Chinese blood today, so I guess it's part of China. That's how it works, you know?
Your theory is that the support for Ukraine and Taiwan is essentially manufactured, that it wouldn't exist. It shouldn't exist.
I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I'm simply stating that.
Yeah.
I'm simply stating that
It's manufactured. People only care about
amount,
it because they've been tricked to caring about it.
It's not tricked, but dude, like, normal people don't think about foreign policy. Are you saying that?
I don't understand what argument is even taking place here. I don't even understand what, like, okay, media informs us on all of these issues. The question is, are we being informed to a point and to a position that is proportional to the actual like meaning of this issue, right? Like, I don't understand when now we've succeeded in distracting from the point. We're now arguing over this like ephemeral, unquantifiable, like how much should people care? It literally doesn't matter, okay? Just say what you think is right.
You don't think that normal people's opinions about like international matters are shaped by what they see on the news and what's prioritized?
I'll give you.
He sounds nervous too. Why is his voice shaking? You're not. What's going on here, man? Dude, there's a bunch of fucking CCP agents in the building pointing guns at them. Why is his voice quivering too? Why is Ethan the only one who's not? Fucking G is right behind that wall, man. Jesus Christ.
A better example.
Of course it is.
Hold on, because I'm being double teamed now, so I need to speak.
Okay.
Of course it is. But this implication that you're like, if you say nobody cares about Taiwan or Ukraine because of the media, it implies that, you know, the support for those two countries or care for those two countries is like, manufactured. that it's really not sincere. That's what
I think the correct answer here is not whether or not it's manufactured, but whether or not it's warranted. Like, you can argue intentionality forever when you're talking about why people are informed, whatever. Does the Western media have like more of an interest in informing you on some stuff than others? Yeah, sure. But that's the case for literally all things. So why not just ignore that step in the process and ask like, okay, now that we've established that it's like manufactured or like whatever, I don't care. You know, now that we've established that it exists, is it warranted? And I think Ethan's doing great, by the way.
Any country that the United States of America has a genuine interest in is manufactured in either direction. It can be manufactured carelessness and inconsideration, like being inconsiderate and ruthlessly violent at certain points, which is the example I was going to use with 9/11 and what we did post 9/11. Or it could be manufactured in the other direction, where it's like, this is the just war. This is the just war that we have to fight, like we did in Vietnam originally, when there was need to generate popular support for whatever kind of
jibber jabber. This is jibber jabber 100%.
action America consistently takes. Now,
I'm not denying that propaganda exists.
yeah, we as a nation here in America and all around the world are not immune to propaganda.
Oh my god. It's like 101 shit every time, man. God damn. It's like you become a lefty and you learn, whoa, dude, the media lies to you sometimes. And then that's the only thing you ever learn. Like, it's... What does that even fucking mean? No, it doesn't. None of this means anything. It's not like, if we were talking about like propaganda lying to you, then say what the lie is, you know? Like lefties or fake lefties or whatever will say, bro, you're just repeating CNN talking points when you say things that are objectively correct about China. Like Ethan did that. Ethan is like, okay, yeah, but China really did bowl over Hong Kong and disappear their activists and crush them with police force. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, because the Western media focuses on that. It's like, okay, well, it's true. That did happen. The Western media was correct to because it was real. So I feel like the issue here, it's not just whether or not Western media is lying. It's like, hey, Western media, don't shine a spotlight on bad things that my pet dictatorship does. Like, Western media must not only be true all the time, and that would be great, don't get me wrong, but it must also lie to cover China and never cover the bad things that China does. Because if it does, and you listen to them, that means you're repeating CNN talking points when you engage in such horribly unlefty behavior, like, I don't know, condemning China, shutting down LGBTQ and Marxist clubs, you know? If you believe the Western lies and attack China on that behavior, that proletarian behavior, you know, you're actually being victimized by Western propaganda.
The example I was going to use was our justification for the invasion of Afghanistan.
Oh my god.
And the invasion of Iraq. These were both unjustifiable wars, in my opinion. The war on terror was across the board, wholesale, ruthless, cruel, led to millions of people dying, led to tens of millions of people being destabilized. And we're
Is this true? I'm just hearing about this.
Still living in the rubble of that kind of
Right,
cruel and unusual action. And it was championed by a majority of the American population, and until like the past like couple of years, where
what does that have to do with Ukraine being invaded by Russia?
Good question.
Where do you think that kind of attitude came from?
Did you know that the media that lied about Iraq is the same media that told you that Russia invaded Ukraine? Curious. What the fuck does that mean?
My point is, that
propaganda exists. Yeah, I know.
No, my point is that Americans think that they are independent thinkers.
Oh my god, dude. He doesn't have a point.
The Russian invasion of Georgia was a non-story. Nobody gave a shit here.
But it's different. It is different. There's difference.
It was a sovereign nation that Russia invaded.
Because it doesn't have the same proximity.
Ethan, I know people are going to give you shit for this, but you're being a king, okay? The casual defense of fascism from leftist circles is not something that should be tolerated as just like par for the course. You've done nothing but ask legitimate questions, and failing to provide meaningful counters, you have been given a 20-minute lecture on how the concept of propaganda exists. But you are right, King.
Okay,
I
know people are influenced by the media.
Right, but
it's like he's being gaslit. Like, he never said otherwise.
You're saying you think that people,
are allowed to care about things genuinely.
Nobody's saying that they're not
saying
allowed
that you're not allowed to. I mean,
not allowed to. But Hasan was saying.
What was I saying?
Yeah, they're gaslighting him for sure. They were constantly like, oh, well, Western propaganda, Western media, they lie to you. Here, let me talk about Afghanistan. Let me talk about Iraq. Let me talk about how you're not immune to propaganda. And it's like, and then Ethan's like, what fucking point are you making? And it seems like they're both admitting like, oh, we weren't making any point at all. Like, they're basically just saying, oh yeah, we didn't have anything. We weren't saying you can't have those opinions. We weren't saying that you believe that they're not susceptible to propaganda. Like, we're just saying stuff, you know? That's enough of this. There's nothing argument now. They're just doing a nothing.